In this video, I am going to be discussing the business model of actually leasing a property that you may have already converted or looking to convert to a potential operator who is looking to actually operate their own residential assisted living facility. So if you're interested, make sure to stick around. What is going on, everyone? I hope you're all doing well. If you're new here, my name is Serge. Welcome to the channel. To all my reoccurring viewers, thank you so much for all the love and support that each and every single one of you have shown me. And if you have not yet, make sure to go check out the God Made podcast on most streaming platforms. Also, feel free to go check out Legion Assisted Living Academy as well. And that is where I teach how to start your own facility from A to Z. And also you can find things like the Performa template, residence agreement template, or even documentation package for operating your own facility. Also, if you have not checked out valleyalfventures.com, make sure to go check us out. And if you are a passive investor looking to passively invest in this niche of healthcare real estate, make sure to reach out to us. We would love to have a discussion with you. Also, if you are an operator looking to potentially expand your facility or sell any of your facilities, make sure to reach out to us. And so with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the topic of this video. Now, a lot of you have been reaching out and actually asking about potentially leasing a property out to an operator that you have available. Maybe it's a single family residence that you've been renting out long-term, year to year to just long-term tenants, or you've been doing midterm or potentially even short-term rentals with that property. And a lot of you have reached out about this and have asked me if it's worth actually putting the money and the time to converting and zoning your property to potentially lease to an operator. So what I would like to talk about this topic and what I would like to say is I've been actually doing this model now for about 3 years of actually purchasing facilities and leasing them to operators. And that is what I've been doing with my partner and what we do at Valley ALF Ventures. And it has really grown a lot for us, and we've expanded a lot more into the commercial space now, which we had been doing a lot of 10-bed facilities here in the state of Arizona, because that is just where I'm at the moment and is what we had a lot of potential to grow in, especially in the Phoenix market and the submarkets of Arizona. So what I would like to talk about on this topic is the fact that you can take your single family residence and possibly install a sprinkler system, go through the proper zoning, get the certificate of occupancy or the conditional use permit to be able to properly have that location secured from a zoning perspective, and then have an operator come in and license it. Or you could go ahead and license it yourself and potentially make your money back by selling that license and doing a change of ownership to a potential operator who doesn't want to go through that process. So there's a lot of potential here for individuals to be able to take their property and actually lease it out to operators. Now, clearly there's a second part to this, and that is to get that operator and be able to negotiate a lease with them and potentially have them operate out of that location. So with the first part of being able to actually get that property set up for an operator to step in and start operating is one half of it, and then getting the operator is the second half. Now, not every property is going to ultimately work, so you have to go through the same type of due diligence. You'd have to go through the same exact thing that an operator would have to in order to convert one of these properties to do so. And you have to look in each state, depending on how many beds you can actually get licensed for. You want to be able to convert your property and offer the opportunity for somebody to be able to license that and operate at the maximum of what that state allows you for when it comes to the licensed beds. So for instance, here in the state of Arizona, because we can go up to 10 beds in a residential setting, you want to set up a home to allow for 10 beds. You want to have everything in place to allow for that. The same goes for anywhere else that would allow you to be able to get the maximum amount of beds in a certain location. Because when an operator is asking, okay, you've done the conversions, you have this amount of bedrooms, you have this amount of bathrooms, okay, I can license this up to 10 beds, or I can license this up to 16 beds if you're like in Ohio or Texas or other states that allow for 16 beds, or, you know, even 6 beds if you're in Florida or California, whatever the case may be. But you want to be able to offer that, right? You want to make sure that the operator can just step right in and start licensing it, or potentially even operating it if you've already licensed it for them and sold them that license and done the change of ownership for them. You know, there's a ton of value add there for that operator, right? Because if you are able to have the property all set up, ready to go, certificate of occupancy in hand, they will be willing to pay a premium for that lease. And what do these lease terms typically look like? What kind of length would you be looking at, right? So typically a lot of these leases are for 5 years. You can do anywhere from 3 to 5 years depending on what that operator is willing to negotiate with you. And so that secures you a long-term tenant. And not only that, but you know that they're going to have to maintain that property properly and make sure that it's presentable for the families that they're going to be taking care of and the residents that are going to be at that home that they're going to be taking care of, right? And secondly, what type of lease would, like, how much are you going to need to charge in order for you to be profitable? Now, this is all going to come down to underwriting. What type of debt service coverage do you have on that property? Meaning, how much do you have a loan on that property? If so, how much is that loan? And how much are you going to need to be charging in order to be profitable? Now, in most cases, you've probably already underwritten the deal because you've been already doing a long-term rental out of that property. You've already been doing midterm rentals, whatever model you've been doing already. You already know how much you need to make per month to be able to cash flow. So again, the same rule applies when it comes to figuring out what type of lease you're going to ultimately be charging. Now, keep in mind, if you're going to be doing a lot of conversions and you're going to have a lot more costs and investment into that property, you're going to have to factor that in, right? Whether you're having to self-fund those renovations, or you're taking some type of construction loan out, or home equity line of credit, whatever that looks like for you, you're going to have to apply that to your underwriting and make sure that you are going to still be able to cash flow once everything is all said and done. Now, there's a lot of things that go into leasing a property out to a potential operator. But one thing you also have to keep in mind with this is that you're going to need a commercial lease in place. You do not want any type of residential lease when you do this type of lease with an operator. Why? Well, because they're going to be ultimately running this type of business out of it. And commercial leases are typically written out to where it protects not only you as the landlord, but also requires things from the tenant that protect you and your asset. And so typically that would be the liability insurance that they have to have in place. There's going to be a couple stipulations depending on what they're going to ultimately be responsible for when it comes to the property, and what you as a landlord will be ultimately responsible for when it comes to the property. So these are just a couple things to keep in mind when it comes to leasing a property out to an operator. I will be doing more videos on this topic and more in-depth videos because I think a lot of people see the opportunity of doing this, and there are a lot of operators that need more landlords to be able to lease properties out to them, especially in this current lending environment that we're in. Not a lot of operators are able to go and buy what they would ideally want to have, but there are a lot of people who own properties that are ideal for this type of model, depending on where they're at, how many beds they can get licensed in a certain location. And you may have a property that's in an ideal location for an operator, and they just can't buy anything in that area just because there's either something that they can't afford, or there's nothing that really meets their criteria. So people should keep an open mind about this and be willing to explore this avenue if they're not looking to do the operations themselves. And with all that being said, if you're interested, you can book a one-on-one call with myself and we can discuss this a lot more in depth and see if your property is ideal for doing something like this, and what you would need to do as the landlord, and if it makes sense. So with all that being said, make sure to go check out legionassistedlivingacademy.com or also check out valleyalfventures.com, and I will talk to you all in the next one. God bless.